Well, and it's also,
always
if
changing.
you're a woman, you're not as good as a man.
No.
Yes, it does.
See, that's the thing.
my
You're
opinion.
confusing Sharia for being an actual list of rules for it being the creation of rules.
I am not confusing.
Do you reject Sharia?
No, hell no.
Sharia says that if I am not Muslim and I do not accept Islam,
No.
Are you Muslim? Are you Muslim?
Yes, I am Muslim.
Are you
course he's
pleased with
Muslim.
what's going on in the world?
No, but I don't think that Islam is the defining factor of what's wrong with it.
How do you treat a woman?
I love
Alexander,
women.
you're
I
out
just
of
got
this.
married last week to
But-
a beautiful, beautiful woman.
But your book requires you to not treat her like that.
That's a very common misconception.
Common?
So,
The Islamic faith has not gone through a reformation, have they? They're quite confused in which direction they need to go. They can't decide if they stay with barbaric viewpoints or if they stay with civilized viewpoints. That's what Donald Trump is trying to address.
There are completely different law sets around sexuality, how women are treated, how men are treated.
see, that's the point that I'm trying to make here.
I mean, when
is
we-
that Sharia is a changing thing.
Are Muslims willing to work under common law?
Of course. One of the main principles of Sharia, defined by the majority of Muslims, is that you follow the rules of the land that you live in. Which means if I'm an American and I'm following the Constitution, that's me pleasing God.
When's the last time you read the Quran?
Maybe last month. It was the holy month of Ramadan, so you're encouraged to read the whole thing.
Is there any sections in there on love and loving your fellow man?
Honestly, like 90% of it is all about love and taking care of your neighbor and being honest.
Okay, let
It's
me-
maybe 3-4 sections on honesty alone.
Okay, well, that's enough. That's enough to tell you that you're full of bullshit.
Who's full of bullshit?
You are,
Why?
because it's just full of hate. Hate for the infidels. Kill them.
When was the last time you read the Quran?
I've done a lot of studying.
When was the last time you read the Quran?
You're full of bullshit. You're just a front.
I'm a front for
Doesn't
Muslims.
matter. You don't know much about the Muslim. No, thank you.
I guess one of my biggest problems with somebody like Donald Trump is that he uses Islam as the defining factor for how we can identify these people.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us.
I'm not here to complain about my feelings. I'm worried about the safety of Americans who are Muslim, who feel unsafe because they have people who are in this country who already don't like Muslims, who are using Donald Trump's rhetoric as an excuse to organize and be violent and be angry against Muslims who are mostly innocent.
This country went through 9/11, and the left told us it was an inside job. The Islamic community has got to open up its mouth, it has to demonstrate, it has to go completely crazy in a different way. It has to present itself, and it hasn't. Everywhere.
It has, though, a lot, like a lot.
Yes, but not where near the negative.
Muslims are almost exclusively the only ones who are fighting ISIS right now.
Yeah, but you need to explain that. Your media is terrible.
Our media or your media?
Both.
What about the terrorists that come in the other countries that say we hate America and we're going to go do them in? Does that bother?
I wouldn't vote for them for president.
Okay, I would, in the sense that, hey, if you're going to take care of business, at hand, okay? If those terrorists decided that's what they're doing, right? They're coming in here and trying to take care of business because they believe one way. Well, Trump believes another way.
I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay? If that's okay.
You walk around here, there's probably going to be all sorts of security. We're under surveillance right now.
I think this is a different kind of surveillance. They're not coming to your churches and seeing what
but,
you're up
but,
to.
But if you go in to any, without this convention, anywhere downtown in any type of metropolitan area.
But you got to admit, it's a little different.
Not really.
I don't have a negative feeling about Muslims. I have a negative feeling about people who want to kill me.
Me too, believe me.
Well, there are people over there that continually scream death to Americans, so what are we supposed to think?
Well, I mean, there's also people all over the world who scream death to lots of things. Well, I really wouldn't. I mean, there's also protests here where people scream death to cops, right?
I know.
So how would you feel if someone in Canada were to say, yeah, well, Americans, they all hate cops, and that's a place that breeds anti-cop sentiment?
I believe it's, you can't categorize people in one little box.
I'd have to agree with that. Surveillancing Muslims, good or bad?
Surveillancing? Well, depends on the circumstances. It depends on the reason for it. I mean,
Because they're Muslim, good or bad?
that's bad. That's bad.
So ban on all Muslims coming into the country, good or bad?
I think that there needs to be a temporary ban.
Oh, we were so close.
But there needs to be some type of control.
There's a certain faction of the Muslim community that does not love Americans, and so how?
Very, very tiny faction, right?
I think it's a tiny faction, but how do we know who it is and who it isn't?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Banning Muslims is very unconstitutional and un-American.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's up to you. Everybody has their interpretation. Yeah. And that's kind of similar to the way that Islam is practiced, where people take an interpretation of it and then use that to kind of enforce their own laws. And that's what you see in those countries where they subjugate women and they have their own desires, their own sexist desires, and they take that out on them and use a book the same way people use the Constitution here to kind of push forward their agenda.
I'm only talking about terrorists. I'm not talking about all Muslims.
Believe me, all Muslims everywhere would love so much if the Republicans just called them terrorists. That's all they have to do, and everything will be just so peachy, you know?
Oh. Well,
it's the Muslim part that makes us feel worried for our safety. I just think that the language that he's using puts American lives at risk. Muslim American lives at risk.
Right.
You understand?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
So that's why I'm like, concede this one for me, just please. Is Islam at America?
I'm not going to say all Muslims are at war with Americans. I'm not going to say that.
Just terrorists.
Just terrorists. There we go.
That's perfect. I love that. Thank you so much.